Well, it seems like everybody's leaving the UK, and this is the interesting time that I moved to the UK. Welcome to my channel. My name is Karen Ekwang. Welcome to a broad perspective where I share my journey of relocation and settling abroad. If you're new here, please make sure you subscribe, leave a comment, and let me know your thoughts. As I record this video, it's just 2 years since I moved here in 2023, and I'm just reflecting, is it worth it? So by the time I was moving, there was lots of things happening at a macro level. Of course, I moved for personal reasons, mainly driven by family, but there were other things that were happening here in the UK, worldwide. There's the whole inflation, cost of living crisis, Russia-Ukraine war, all that was happening, immigration policies changing all over the place, the whole nationalism and people being anti-immigrant. So much was happening. And so today I just want to unpack some of these things that have been happening, how they've affected me. And the first one is the cost of living. So of course, when I moved, I expected to pay higher rent. I expected to pay higher prices for certain things. But some things came as a surprise, like the cost of power is really high. And it's not just for me comparing to back home. It's been an inflated cost of power over the years, especially driven by the Russia-Ukraine war here in UK. Like over winter, people really struggled to pay their power bills. I remember there's a time we paid about £300 in power bills, which is quite high. Even the cost of water bills is really high. Council taxes keep going up every year. UK has some of the highest property taxes in Europe. I mean, granted. And these are taxes you have to pay. You cannot run away from them. Inflation, I mean, even the cost of food just keeps going up. If I look at my grocery bills, I feel like every month or every few months, the cost is going up. And the wages are not rising in tandem with that. So there's that. There's the cost of living crisis, which everybody is feeling, even the people who are born here and people who live here. And then you look, on the other hand, there are immigration policies that have been coming into place. When I moved, the Conservatives were in power. 1 year into my move, and NHS surcharge has almost doubled. NHS surcharge is what you pay to access NHS services. Visa fees as well increased by, I think, £200 or more, and also increased this year. And then the immigration policies changed. The whole issue around you cannot bring your family as a student, only a certain threshold for skilled worker visas, only I think PhD students can bring their family. All that has changed the dynamic within the UK and life for immigrants. So all this happening, and then now Labour has come into power, and now the white paper is talking about moving the settlement time from 5 years to 10 years to get ILR. So you're thinking about paying these visa fees for 10 years. Think about that, the elevated visa fees. A ban on the care worker visa. I mean, so much is changing, and the House of Lords for Science and Technology wrote to Parliament to say, these stringent rules you're putting in place is making the UK unattractive to talent, to STEM talent. If you just look at the impact since the Tories immigration policy to now, especially on universities, the number of foreign students has gone down. And remember, these universities depend on foreign student fees to run. So there have been layoffs. Universities are really struggling. And this also hurts the economy in various ways. I mean, there's the notion, yes, that immigrants come here to benefit, but I don't know if anybody looks at what we contribute, what immigrants contribute to the economy, and what value immigrants bring to the economy. So with this whole inflation, and then interest rates are high, people are struggling to even pay their mortgages, people are struggling to keep up with bills, people are constantly working, the grind is real, people are constantly working to be able to just survive and to pay bills. So that's one side of the economy and the life here. But then you look back home, and as a Kenyan looking back at my country, are things any better? There's still the whole inflation crisis. I mean, there's a whole crisis of leadership and government at the moment. We had the Gen Z protests, which brought to light that people are not happy, but have we really experienced the uhuru or the freedom after that? Is a question we still ask ourselves. The other thing, again, cost of living is very high. I was home in December and I remember buying some of the things in the supermarket, and something like milk, which I buy at about 68p pence per liter, which is just about 115 Kenya shillings. It's just about the same price for a liter of milk in the supermarket back home, 120, 140, depending where you buy. I remember the one that was shocking me was a can of baked beans, because here you buy it for maybe 40p, which translates to what? Maybe 80 shillings, 70 shillings. And it was £1. Like, it was, I think, 170, and I was like, what? I thought this thing we used to buy it at 40 bob. But that's just an example. There's so many things. The cost of living is also like really high, and you compare it to how much people earn, it's really unfair. It's not fair. You look at healthcare, it's just in a really bad state. It's not easy to access good quality healthcare without having to pay a lot of money, which is not fair. I'm not saying the healthcare system here is perfect. We all know the issues with the NHS and the long waiting lists. But if it's about things like emergency care, you will get emergency care and you will get good quality care. I remember the time it dawned on me that, yeah, really this system works. There was an accident outside our office. I think we noticed it maybe like 30 minutes later. Within minutes, the ambulance was there. It was like a collision. The ambulance was there within minutes. Police were there redirecting traffic. No crowds, no chaos. The air ambulance was there in minutes. The people were evacuated, taken for treatment. Traffic was controlled. The site was cleared and life moved on. And just if you are in an emergency back home, just getting to quality care that can save your life, because it all depends on time, is a story for another day. There have been stories recently about just negligence and, people dying because either due to negligence or not getting the right quality of care. Even accessing medication is a problem. So there are those issues back home. You look at the currency depreciation. This one is painful. A few years ago, maybe five years ago, the pound to the shillings was around 130 shillings. Now it's at 170. I remember when I moved, it was at 200. And being an import-driven economy, I know how that hurts. I know the impact of that. And it's not just us. If you look at people like Nigeria, the pound is 1 pound to 2,000 naira. 1 pound, 2,000 naira. Previously, I think it was something like 500. So, like, our systems are just broken. There's education. Here, you can access free quality education to university level. Of course, also the cost of education at university level is high. But education is an equalizer. And from a basic age, you're able to get good quality education. Our education system back home, we are not able to just even give that equality to people, so that we give people a level playing field. Public schools are not really quality education. If you want that really quality education, you have to go to a private school, which are also expensive. There are all sorts of issues, all sorts of discussions around our curriculum, and the discussions are good, but we can do better. But all this is also driven just by leadership. I mean, there's the whole issue of corruption. So you look at both sides. There are issues here, there are issues at home. With the whole issue of corruption, our systems don't work. Here, at least you look, well, there are systems that work. You don't need to know anyone in government. You don't necessarily need to make calls for things to happen. There are systems in place and you follow the system and it works. But the unfortunate bit of being an immigrant is that you're at the mercy of the government policies, which could change anytime. So you find yourself at a disadvantage or at the mercy of the laws and the policies and the people who make these policies. and you do not have control over that. And when this kind of things happen, then you ask yourself, should I be here? I don't know if you found yourself in a situation where you're like, okay, should I be here? Is it really worth it? One of the things that keeps me going for me in these times is going back to the purpose and the reason why we moved and the assignment for which we moved. And for me, being anchored by faith, if you go back to the book of Isaiah, I like Isaiah 51, which says, look to Abraham and look to Sarah who bore you. Those are our fathers of faith. And then you go back to Genesis 12 when God called Abraham. And for me, having moved, I think this scripture came alive for me most after I moved. Because God tells Abraham, move from your country, from your family, from your father's house. If you've moved, I'm sure you can feel that. That's what we move from. We move from our familiar place and from our comfort and from our family, and we go to a different land. And immigration is not new. Even Jesus was an immigrant at a certain moment for safety reasons, and not anywhere else in Africa for safety reasons. So Abraham moves, and from then on, I look at Abraham as an immigrant. He moves to a different kind of land, and then God tells him, I will bless you and I will make you into a nation. So this whole move was because of an assignment and a purpose for him, and it had to be fulfilled. And for me, that's where I go back to. There's an assignment, there is a purpose for which you moved. Honestly, I don't think you just move out of your country into this whole discomfort and into this whole different place just to go through the motions of life. There has to be an assignment and a purpose attached to it. And for me, that's what I go back to. I'm very clear in my mind currently why we are here. I'm very clear what's in it for my husband, for my daughter, for myself. The things are beginning to unfold and continue to unfold. And you have to be very intentional about your stay, about your place, your stay, your time here. Whether it's for a season, whether you want to stay permanently, or you're in this transition and you're thinking, why did I have to put myself through all this chaos? That's where I go back to Genesis 12. That move has to have an assignment, has to have a purpose attached to it, has to have a blessing attached to it, and that's what I hold on to. We may not have control over so many things, but we have control over the assignment and the purpose to which God sent us to this land at this moment in time. So, are you living the UK? Are you staying in the UK? Let me know in the comments. Let me know your reasons for living. Let me know your reasons for staying. Let me know how you feel about all these things happening around. Thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe to A Broad Perspective.